even though we kept saying security is important, our
Hmm.
engineers at that time kind of didn't, we are not even, first of all, they were not fully aware
Hmm.
of the issues that we having on our in our systems and the importance of addressing them and working on them. So that's, and the
Hmm.
second of all, I also felt that our engineers, they kind of didn't know, right, even didn't know the best practices in that field, like what is the
Yeah.
best, what is secure coding, for example, right? How do you develop with security in mind ultimately?
Hmm.
Do you have any like test cases for that, right? Have you tested the edge cases to test, and on top of that, as you know now, there is so much easier to hack into, right? Like
Hmm.
everyone, there are some automated tools you could instrument DDoS attack, kind of
Well,
using cloud.
they say
So easy.
they say companies fall into two categories: those that know they've been hacked and those that don't know they've been hacked.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I mean, if you take into account like malware and those sorts of things, then really what that's saying is like 100% of companies have had some security incident of some degree. So that I found really eye opening. And you talked about a few different gaps there. One really interesting one is sort of the gap of focus and prioritization, but the other gap you spoke about was the gap of expertise.
Yeah.
That the engineers, um, you know, they don't know it's a priority. They don't know what they don't know.
Right.
So how do you overcome some of these gaps?
Yeah, so I think the prioritization one was actually quite challenging
Hmm.
because in the beginning, I think it was the highest challenge for us because the teams all focused on delivering usually product features, right? And thinking how we can improve products like user journey on our website to make it easier, to look better, right? But then that's the whole thing that we need to think, but how about we actually need to make sure that we are secure, we protect
Yep.
our privacy of our candidates and hires in this case. And so that required a lot of, like, I would say it required a lot of discussion on leadership level, right? To kind of
Yep.
uh, and it needs to be, and you and I, because like maybe we come from engineering and it's more natural to us to understand the urgency for that, but for other roles like product or UX, for them maybe
Yep.
it's not as urgent. So it was also about bringing them on the same page, right? And indicating
Yeah.
them that this is actually, to have a secure site is a number one, and then you could enhance and have beautiful features and
Yep.
improve on the user experience. And yeah, and I think it ended up being ultimately coming from, in the end, right? It became one of our objectives, for our official objectives from the exec team, that security
Yeah.
and privacy is an objective, and that was the easiest way to kind of prioritize.
It was at first an objective for the product development group, and then
Yeah.
it got even larger than that. It was later set as an objective across the entire group. It was something that the CEO Ian Narev for APAC spoke about as being a key for him as well. So so maybe tip number one is like leading from the top,
Yeah.
acknowledging that it's a critical issue. I found one thing that was really helpful was communicating in terms of the customers or users, like so rather than talking about just security fixes, but talking about what does it mean for them. For them, it's the difference between trusting and not trusting. It's the
Yeah.
difference between identity theft or not being impacted by identity theft, those sorts of things. And when we started using that was helpful for getting a more different people of different backgrounds behind the idea. So that
Yeah.
was an
And
interesting
actually,
journey.
I remember when we were looking at different security issues, right? Possible, we will be
Hmm.
evaluating whether it affects like the data privacy is very important, right? You definitely like you want to prevent any possibility of identity theft, and then
Yep.
you would be also looking, is it like the DDoS attacks? Like ultimately, would it affect your service availability and reliability on a mass scale? And then even
Hmm.
like a single user, some of these things could affect just a single user and kind of be a hole for some malware, for example, or spam, right? Um,
Yep.
yeah. So
I mean, something else that resonated with engineers was that idea that your the software that you use should not harm you. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
so when they would ask, oh well, I got a feature to build, I've got I've got some reliability or uptime issues to address, and I've got this security vulnerability. How do I prioritize
yeah,
those? And they were, and they were saying, why do you put security at a higher priority in many circumstances? And the answer to that was like, well, if you go and use the ATM, but there's a 1 in 5 chance that you lose money doing that, through a glitch or something like that, or because someone gets your credentials. How will you feel about that? And if you think about that impact, for us, it was tens of millions of candidates. That's huge. But even for an individual, that sort of impact, you should never have to use a product
yeah.
and actually be hurt by using it.
Yeah, I would not go to that ATM basically. For
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Someone tell me where that ATM is, and I'm going to avoid it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good point. But yeah, and as you noted, the other challenge is exactly about expertise and education. And that's,
Mm,
first of all, expertise in engineering, I think, right? That you achieve through kind of training and hiring. Um,
mhm.
and the fun thing that we have done, right? I don't know if you remember last year, and actually we had this year too. We have these competitions now, kind of like folks. Everyone knows hackathons,
Yeah,
so we had kind of like, it's not called hackathon, but ultimately it's kind of mini hackathon that is really just security uh, focused. And yeah, people get together in different teams, and then they have a bunch of security challenges that they need to try to either break into or fix, and then yeah, we get the winners. And so that was actually a lot of fun, I think, for people, and raised awareness quite a lot across
yeah.
organization. And even some engineers were like, oh, very curious to kind of improve their skills as part of that process. Yeah.
So we've got M7880 says hackathon for security sounds like fun. And so so Jane, you were very much
Mhm.
involved with that. So you had a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
did the other training that the security team ran, which was that sort of scenario based stuff, which I found awesome. And I did it, that it was available for anyone across the company.
Hmm.
And I was there with people from finance, people from the sales and service team, people from customer care, and we all had so much fun doing that. So there is lots of awesome ways to engage with people all across companies and get them thinking about security. That's a really great example.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Because this is more like hackathons are more about the engineers, but yeah, we wanted
Mm,
to raise awareness and educate people in other roles and such, and even like um, some seminars, right? And even some emails that raise awareness about what's going on around the world. Like, especially now with COVID, I feel like everyone is being hacked 10 times more than before, right? Like,